Hey everyone, this is Karen with Over the Artsy Moon, and I'm going to be coming on right now to show you how to do this woodland mushrooms painting tutorial. Alright, so our supplies. We need our paint, black, white, Hauser light green, Bahama blue, and this one is cherry. These three are from Deco Art, acrylic paint, Americana brand, and that's a cherry red. Alright, so you can use any colors that would work for you. I also need some water in a cup. I'm using my trusty rag. I use it over and over, or you can get a paper towel. We're also going to be using chalk, and you'll need your tracer printed out. I taped it together. This is the 11 by 14 I'm showing you. If you're using the 16 by 20 tracer for a larger canvas, then you'll have 4 pieces to tape together. I also have my 11 by 14 inch canvas. I usually keep my baby wipes on hand just in case I have something I want to clean up. And then for something like a paint party or personal use, you can just use these three. I'm going to quickly paint this black so that you're not waiting too long for me to catch up with you. So I have a 1 inch, well actually this is like a 3/4 inch flat, but you could use something that would work similarly to that. I've got a number 6 round. You could use a medium-sized round brush like this, and then I have a liner or excuse me, detail brush. This is like a 0 or a 1. We're going to be using the carbon paper or the graphite paper that's white. So start with this bigger brush. This is just like a chip brush if you're using that for the painting of the black. So if you already purchased the black canvas, you could have skipped all of that and started right at this point. Okay, I'm going to grab my white carbon paper. There's a shinier side that's going down on the canvas. And then you're going to put your tracer right on top. Now I have this lined up at the top, and then there's going to be a little bit of extra on the bottom that just folds over. And I'll just start by tracing one part of it and just check that the line is going through. On the tracer I added some little decorative elements, but you don't have to trace the inside. That's just to give you a visual of how it's going to look, and the dots you don't have to do either. You don't have to really do the antennae, but you could as well. So this is all I'm going to do for the butterfly. All right, here's my chalk. This is just regular plain old chalk, and if you have the nicer chalk for doing art, you can use that as well. But all I'm going to do is go along the edges of all my art. Okay, for this part, you're just going to stop here and then come straight down. You'll notice I'm not going all the way to the bottom of the canvas because we're going to be adding some of the ground colors there anyway, so it won't matter. So if you were doing this for a paint party, you could have this part done for them so they would be able to just start at this point. All right, let's work on our background. We're going to grab white on our brush. Oh, I forgot to wet that a little bit. Grab some white and grab some of the Bahama blue, and we're going to start up at the top. So I'm going to just tilt my canvas here a little bit, and all I'm going to do is get both on my brush and just start doing these X shapes. You can leave some of that black showing if you'd like, or just work it in. I kind of like having that moodiness of the black in there to give it a little interest. And then as you get to the mushroom shape, you can kind of do one of two things. If you like a nice clean border, you can do something like this, where you're dragging your brush. Or you could kind of just come in with your paint more like kind of tapping right next to it to give it a little rougher edge. And both are kind of nice. Okay. So I don't like my brush strokes all the way blended. It's up to you how you want to do it, but kind of nice to have a little interest in your painting. In this section here, I like it a little lighter. I'm going to put a little more white down here. And you can see I went across the edge there, so don't worry if that happens. Totally fine. You can add the black later to fix that. Now as we work our way down, we're going to be adding some of the green in there as well. So you're going to be blending up a little bit. You can grab more blue and white on your brush too. Get this blended in. So you get higher to blend these, you're just kind of feathering it in like that. So white, blue, and green on my brush. As I go next to these shapes, it's easier to kind of bring it up like this. So if you see, it's a very distinct difference there. And you can just grab a little bit of whatever color you're missing. And so I see a lot of green right into the blue, so I might even get a little bit of white onto my brush, just a tiny bit, and just kind of blend those two areas in together. But don't worry about it being perfect. It's not supposed to be perfectly blended. You can come back and do any others too if you feel like you need more of something. Or even bring that green up on one side. It's really up to you how you want to do the blending. I feel like I need a little more green in here. And then a little more white. And then as I go farther down here, I'm going to just be focusing on the green and white. Right in this middle band. Oh, I forgot to do this part. Just go in with some blue here. Get a little white. Green and blue. And then I'm going to work on those green and white areas in the middle here. And you'll notice I have not rinsed my brush yet. Okay, so let's just do strictly green for a little bit. And then let's do some black and green. If you feel like it's too dark here, you can just let it dry for a couple minutes and then come back to it. We're also going to come right under those mushroom stems too. Right, this part that's a little dark here, I'm just going to grab a little white on my brush too. I'll give it a gray tone in there underneath the green. Honestly, this part doesn't matter too much because it's going to be covered up by our grasses, but just in case somebody's worried about it, don't worry about it too much. I forgot the bottom. I'll do that part too. And we're going to go in with some white. Now if you feel like working with a smaller brush, you can. Just gonna make sure this is pretty clean. Wipe it off there, then take it and push it on your rag or your paper towel so most of that moisture gets absorbed. Let's go right into the white. And how I get a nice clean edge on this is to pull it one way into the other way into the paint, and I'm going to go back and forth. Okay, so I have quite a bit of paint on there, but it's kind of a flat edge. And then I'm just going to go, and I'm going to be going right next to that chalk. Okay, you can also have your brush going up on an angle like this, so just straight down on the canvas. Okay. Doesn't matter exactly how wide that chalk line is. If it's bigger, that's fine, but you're going to just try to get that straight edge. So if you need to reload, get more paint on your brush, I'm going to go back one and forth to get that mostly flat edge. If it's a lot on there, get the middle first and then go to the edge to get that line. Okay, don't worry about it being totally covered with the white, like in a nice bright white. This is just to get us our first layer so that it's not going to be hard to paint over it with the next layer. And I kind of lost my white up here, that white bright area, so I'm just going to, since it's mostly a dry brush, I'm just going to add a little bit of light there, maybe a little bit here, kind of so your eye goes up. If there's any other areas you want to work on a little bit with that white, you could do that. Okay, so now same thing, take your brush back and forth into the white. Keep on straightening your brush, and then if you prefer, you can always use this round brush. How you do that is to pull and twist, and then to get the line right next to the chalk, you're just gonna go right like that and then reload. And if you lost your chalk line, you can always just leave a little black border there. Okay, so that's your choice of how you'd like to use your brushes. I'm going to go ahead and use this one. Okay, so with the mushroom caps, we want to pull the white on the left and the top. Okay, so it's okay if it's all the way on the top there, and then we're also going to bring this on the left side. And as I get over to the middle, that's where I'm going to start to pull it up a little bit. Okay, so that's why I'm just leaving a little bit of black showing on the right side. So first I'm going to outline it. If you feel more comfortable, use the round brush. Bring this to the bottom here just to get my line, and then it's pretty easy to fill in. And just kind of, doesn't have to be an exact spot there. We're just getting that filled in there a little bit and leaving some black on the right side. If you feel like you are having trouble getting that line there, use a smaller brush. No problem at all. All right, so then let's go back to our stems. And I'm just gonna do the same thing. So I'm going to come down on the left side. I'll just do the whole thing right now, and then we'll worry about that little jagged ring right there. So this can go right up to the cap and just pull it across. And I'm just going to dip into the black, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the right side. I'm coming down, but then I'm going to pull back toward the white, and it's going to kind of blend those two together. The white and the black with the white turns into that gray. Okay, same thing over here. Grab a little black, and you can outline it first on the mushroom and pull it back. A little white, a little black. Outline the edge, pull it back in. Don't worry if your line is a little wonky, it does not have to be straight. And if you don't really have room to do the shading like this, the blending, you could just kind of tap them together like this. Okay, so if you don't like how strong it turned out, you can always just go back and kind of tap it together. We're going to go over that a little more anyway. So go ahead and rinse your brush. And we're going to come back to the butterfly. If you want to use a smaller brush, you can use a smaller brush, but we're just going to be filling this white area in now. Don't worry about it being completely covering the white. It's totally fine if you have some white showing. Okay, and then while this blue is on your brush, go ahead and just either you could tap it in here like this, or you could do lines, but I would kind of pick one, and it's okay if it's still wet. You're just going to blend those in together like that a little bit. Just going to make it look a little more interesting. I like it when there's colors from one part of the painting and they go into the other parts of the painting. Just make it a little more interesting. Okay, let's do our first layer of red. So grab it on both sides of your brush, same technique, and you're just going to paint over what you have, over the white areas. So that white underneath helped to really make this side more of a highlighted side. And we're going to have to go back over this with one more layer of red. And see how I made a little mistake there? Don't worry, once we take that chalk off later, we'll see what we have to come back and do little fixes to. You could even cover it quickly like this to get most of that white covered. And then grab your round brush and then go in and get the outline of the contour line of the mushroom. Okay, I'm going to work on those rings that go under the mushroom cap. So I'm going to grab a little white and a little black. I have both on my brush. And I'm just going to come from the bottom of the red and just wiggle my brush and then kind of fill that in. So we're doing the blue. You could also mix gray on your palette if you would prefer. Just mix up a little white and a little gray there, or white and black to make it gray. And then just come down and wiggle this line. It pretty much just stays right on the stem, just maybe slightly on the outside. I'll just let that dry. All right, let's work on our butterfly a little bit. So I'm going to take my brush, my flat brush, and I'm going to grab some white now. Same technique. We put it on both sides of our brush. Not too much paint. We just want to have enough to give us a sharp edge. And then we're going to come, and if this is the center right down here, we're going to be bringing our paint kind of up this way. So you still want to see the blue underneath, but we're going to pull that white toward the center. So I'm just doing these light strokes. This. So if you're liking more of the blue, you could always take your brush and get a little blue on there and just add some more lines like this. It's really up to you how you want to do it, just to give a pretty a little bit of texture to the background. Okay, so however you want to do it is fine. And then I'm going to rinse this brush. Okay, let's grab some green on our brush. And I'm just going to do some more into the stem of the mushroom. Yes, I know they're mostly white, but this makes it look way more interesting. This is your artsy spin on it. So if you don't like this, you don't have to do this. And then I'm also going to add some white. So I still have the green on there. I'm just dipping into the white, and I'm mostly going to go on the left side here. So just tapping it. And then you can add a little bit of that white with the corner of this brush into these little rings. Or you could take your round brush and get some white on there and just tap that in there. If you like that look. All right, so with our big brush here, this flat brush, we're going to mix up some green and some black. So I'm going to just take the black over to the green on my palette and mix it in. So we want it pretty dark here. Okay, so we want to use that flat edge. So I'm pulling it both ways. It's kind of like an olive green at this point. And then I'm going to flip my canvas around and I'm going to pull it down toward myself. So if you feel more comfortable the other way, that is totally fine. If you like it this way, this is fine. So you're going to just be making these little strokes. So you really want to get that nice sharp edge on your brush and just come and put those lines on your canvas. If you are finding that your lines are too heavy, just try to go lighter, and then you also want to vary the direction. This little guy here, we don't want to cover up too much. We want to see him, so just avoid that a little bit, but we do want to cover up the bases of the other mushrooms. We'll get them all covered up by the time we're done with all of our different grass colors. Okay, so I've got one layer there, and then I can also do some on the side here. On the side here. Then without washing your brush, grab some just some of the green. So without washing your brush, grab some of the green here, back and forth to get as sharp a line as you can. And you're going to start to come back and do some more of this. And over here, these grasses could be a little taller. Could be taller over here. So you can see how it's starting to lose its definition. So go back, get it sharper on both sides. Okay, let's do a little white in the mix. If it's not too big a difference, you could just add more white or focus on the next color. It's up to you. I'm going to add some blue to the mix now. Okay, flatten your brush. It's running out of paint. Make sure you keep on reloading it. More pressure will give you wider. Less pressure will give you a little fine line. I'm just going to mostly take white here, a little bit of the blue. So you can decide if you don't like this blue look, you don't have to do it. All right, since I have this butterfly nice and close to me, I'm just going to put this brush in here, give it a rinse. And then I'm going to take my liner brush in a second. But first I want to grab my baby white, and I'm going to pull that chalk off of here. If these mushrooms are dry, you can pull that chalk off the top of these too. I'm going to be careful of that ring area is probably still a little wet. So I just wrapped it around my finger, and then it's a little easier to control. So we're not trying to go for perfection here. The lines are way more interesting when they're a little bit off. But if, let's see, right here, do you see I got the paint right in that black? So that's where I can go and fix that in a bit. But you can either use this brush, this is that round number 8, or you can go to your liner brush for this part. I'll show you the liner part, the liner way of doing it. It's the same thing, it's just a little easier to control if you're not a confident painter. So we can just add a little bit. I don't want to cover up everything here to get that a little bit more cleaned up. I'll fix this while I'm thinking of it. Not trying to go for perfection here. Okay, and then I'm going to work on, if this is like right where the two wings meet, let's look at our design here. Okay, so you can kind of see like right there. I'll just put this right here so you can kind of see. So right about there. So we're going to bring those two together, and then this is kind of like the abdomen area right here. Okay, and then you can do a very light line, just if you're not feeling confident where it is, but you can always let it dry. So I'm going to bring this down, bring that there. You can tell my hand's a little shaky. That's totally fine. It's a butterfly. It's organic. Nobody will ever know. All right, let's go back to this part. And I'm just going to make this a little bit more of a thick line. So right here, I've got a little wider. It's that abdomen area. And then as I come up here, I'm going to have a little more of a curve. And I'm going to do a scallop line or kind of a bumpy line. So just see what your paintbrush wants to do, how big these end up being. And then fill this in. Pull and twist so you have a point. And then for the antennae, so feel free to move your canvas so it's comfortable for you. You could have them coming forward the same direction. In the drawing here, I had them kind of separated. It's really up to you. I might just see what my brush wants to do. So I'm going to turn this so you can see a little better. I'm going to start here, and I'm going to do the first one coming this way. And I think I'll have the second one the same way too. So make sure you have a nice point on your brush. And you're going to come out and like so. Maybe that first one needed to be a little darker, a little wider. Okay, looks good. Right, and then the last step with the butterfly is to do that pull and twist. If you like it right now and you're happy and you want to just leave it, you can, but you can also put your brush right here at the bottom of that bumpy line and just pull it toward the middle. You don't even have to have a solid line. You could kind of just imply this. Okay, so I think I need one more bump here. And I'm just going to bring that in. So I'm just barely grazing the canvas. And every time I do this, it'll come out differently. So don't feel like yours is wrong, because it's probably going to look different. So if you want, you can go to the middle one and kind of have your plan. See how my line is a little wonky there? Totally fine. I'm just barely grazing. Just doing some little lines in there. And it looks like I need one here too. So boom, there's one. Created it. And there's my pretty little butterfly. So I can go back and add a little white in there if you feel like your lines were too heavy or anything. We can fix that later. But we'll let that dry and come back to it. Oh, I probably still should have used my black on there, but it was getting kind of goopy, so now I have a nice clean brush. Let's go back, and before we do anything down here, let's clean off that chalk so we see what we're dealing with down here. Ah, does not look nice. We're not even done yet. I know, right? It's just so fun to see what is underneath. Let's go to that black liner brush, or the liner brush, and grab some black on there. Pull and twist. We're going to just give these a quick little outline. So I'm just going to not even go solidly with this ring. You're just adding a little black outline here. And my paint is a little wet there. No worries. Just to give a little bit that look. And the other part we need to do is right above that ring. Just pull that line across there. Pull this line across here. Kind of lost the black here, so I'm just going to pull that in there. If you want to do a few little extra shadow lines here on the right side, you could. Don't have to. Could also have a little bit of these lines kind of coming out here slightly. So just to give it a little bit of movement, you don't have to. It's not something you would really notice when you're looking at it first, but kind of does add to it. Okay, I think that's pretty good. Maybe one over here, and I'll pull this a little bit there. All right, let's add a little more red, and then we'll work on our butterfly, the last step, and then we'll add our dots, our spots, and then we're good. So grab your brush of choice. I'm using that flat brush, and just cover it up. Still going to see the lighter on the left side, but if it's totally gone, I don't think it will be because that black is pretty powerful underneath on the right side. All right, that is good. Really want you to have a clean brush right now because we're going to go to the white and we're just going to add some extra little white. So what I'm going to be doing is pulling the white forward here. So if you don't feel comfortable with this brush, go ahead and use the round brush. Same thing, should be really clean. And we want to just grab some of that white on there. And all we're going to do is start on this end and just come down like this. Okay, I feel like I have more control with the flat brush than the round brush for this, but see what is comfortable for you. You could always use your liner brush too if you're feeling better with that. So make sure it's just white, and I'm pulling it back and forth. And then while it's sideways, I'm just pulling it there in between. However you would like to do your butterfly is totally fine. All right, let's do our dots. If it's not totally dry, give it a sec or just use your blow dryer. So let me get some paint on my brush, and I'm just going to start by the ones in the middle are going to be bigger, so you can kind of just make that circle-ish shape. It does not have to be perfect. They actually don't look like perfect circles if you were to look at them in nature, and we want them kind of random, so you can have some bigger ones, some smaller ones. Try not to put them all in a row. Vary the sizes and just kind of wiggle in there, but you want to constantly reload. If you start to see the red underneath when you're painting, it's definitely going to show up when it's dried. And then as I get to the top, they can be a little smaller and even coming up off the top like that. And then toward the bottom of each mushroom, they're going to be quite a bit smaller and closer together. Don't forget to vary the size and reload your brush. So our final step is just to add some of these white grasses in here. And I want to have my brush pull it and twist, and then I'm just going to be flicking the white. Okay, if you don't want to use this brush, if it's not giving you enough paint on there, go in and use your flat brush. Remember, you get those flat edges back and forth, and that way, very light touch. I want to get that final brightness at the bottom. Super, super light. Feel free to flip your canvas over if that's easier for you. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this, and please join me another time for another tutorial. Have a great day, everybody.